Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Right now, businesses all over the world are struggling with mass employee burnout. Not to mention turnover and a mental and physical health crisis fueled by the state of the world right now. And many are turning to technologies to actually show employees that they really do care, because we are bombarded with notifications on every screen that we look at. And everything demands our attention, and there is almost an expectation for an immediate response from those notifications 16 hours a day. Tech was supposed to make our lives easier and give us more free time, not less, right? But tech without humans does little to support employees and further exacerbates some of the issues that we've just outlined there. And tech can deliver care at scale, bring culture to life in remote workspaces, and reach employees wherever they are. But tech cannot provide true human interaction, continually outperform other apps and platforms, or be successful without reinforcement from leaders and managers in an organisation. So the question I find myself asking on a regular basis, how can a business leader find the sweet spot that helps them show their employees that their business cares and enable humans to pick up where the tech leaves off? Well, today's guest is Henry Albrecht, CEO of Limeade. And together we're going to explore this topic today, so buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Seattle so we can speak with Henry right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Henry Albrecht. I'm the CEO of Limeade. Limeade is an employee experience software company focused on helping big companies care for their employees in the form of well-being, engagement, inclusion, all the things that build a strong culture that drive good business results.
And it's such a hot topic at the moment, being the employee experience. I think especially considering that over the last 12 months, we've had recruitment, onboardment, etc. We've got new employees in a business workplace and they've not even met their colleagues yet. So keeping them engaged and making them feel important in a company, what I would imagine would be more difficult than ever. But can you tell the listeners a little bit more about what you're doing here and how you're using technology and the kind of problems that you're solving for these businesses?
Yeah, and I know this firsthand. I have people joining on my team who I've never met in person, who are executives in the company. So this is it's a new era of work. And in my belief, and based in a lot of the research I've been doing, is that we will never return 100% to the old way that we did work. And so remote work presents massive challenges. And I think even beyond just the remoteness of the work and how hard it is to do the tactical parts of the job, I think the COVID-19 pandemic has revealed a lot that was going on under the surface in terms of social isolation, mental health issues, emotional challenges, just challenges in connecting with your team that you do work with every day, many of which actually existed pre-COVID, but maybe the spotlight was shined a little bit brighter on them. So our approach is to use technology to nudge people and to connect them. Maybe it's an employee resource group we support. Maybe it's some emotional or mental health content we push because we're listening to these employees using listening tools like surveys or other ways to know what's going on and push out the information and the knowledge and the connections that they need. Otherwise, then the gig economy takes over. Otherwise, companies don't have anything to draw people into their company. And, we believe it's really important for global competitiveness to have a company where people want to be there as part of the culture and feel respected as human beings.
It really is. And like I said a few moments ago, it is a hot topic now. But one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today is you've been doing this before everyone jumped on the bandwagon. So can I ask that you share the story behind the company?
Absolutely. I went through probably a very personal COVID-style experience about 15 years ago when I started the company. I was feeling disconnected, maybe a values disconnect with an organization I worked for. And that manifested itself in physical symptoms like a rash on my face, or emotional symptoms like arguing with my spouse too much, or traveling on the road and staying in the airport hotel bars too long. Basically, my physical and emotional and mental health were challenged by the structure of the work that I lived in. And I quit my job and decided to work with some other colleagues on measuring all of the factors that predict employee well-being and engagement and connection to work. So we started that a little bit ahead of our time. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a painful thing when you're trying to sell software. But we really have found our product market fit, and the world is waking up to the fact that you can't just treat people as cogs in a machine or widgets anymore. You really need to look at their whole person well-being, their sense of connection and inclusion, to get the most out of people and to have the best business results. So it's been a long and circuitous journey, up and down, but now every C-suite, even boards of directors, are asking their companies, where can I see that dashboard of the health of your company, the health of your people, the health of your culture? And our goal at Limeade is to provide that to them, in addition to providing really supportive daily experiences for the employees in their companies.
And I think it's so important now. I mean, if we go back 18 months ago, there were many people who were leaving the office at 5 p.m. and forgetting about the office until the following day. But of course, here in 2021, businesses are struggling with mass employee burnout, turnover, and mental and physical health crisis fueled by the state of the world right now. And it can seem that no matter what device you look at, there will be a Slack, Outlook, Zoom, Teams notification almost throughout around the clock, throughout every single day. So how can businesses leverage technology combined with a more human touch to actually show employees that they care? Because I think this is something that you guys are excelling at the moment.
Yeah, there's only so much technology can do. In fact, Microsoft recently revealed some research they did about just how much more people are working, how many people are working late into the evenings, checking emails all weekend, and the impact that has on their lives, their stress levels, et cetera. So I think technology can help you see these issues. They can help you understand what people are doing and perhaps when they're doing them and their perceptions. But it's really a combination of technology, and we use some nudges and some positive support and gamification principles with technology to make people feel connected and cared for. But really, it's the human beings, the managers, the leaders, the teams, the peers, the social networks. Those are the groups that really make the biggest impact in creating a positive community or culture. And those need nudging too. CEOs need nudging. I need nudging sometimes to show up as a empathetic human being to people who are maybe a single mom struggling with raising 3 kids who can't go back to school yet. So I think nudging people to take human action, not just relying on technology to do everything, is really important. One thing we found actually is that when employees perceive care, when they feel that their company actually cares about them as a human being, they're they're 10 times more likely, to recommend that company as a great place to work. And in today's war for talent, it's essential to show that you care. And so care is one of those words that some people view as soft, and we view it as very strong. It's also correlated to higher performance, lower turnover, lower burnout, and all these things that are going on rampantly in the world today, Neil.
I absolutely love that line as well there. Some view it as soft, but you view it as strong. And I think you're still way ahead of your time here. And it's so refreshing to hear. And we are all relying on technology to enable us to work anywhere and everywhere from any device that we've got to hand. But how would you compare tech's benefits to its limitations, do you think?
Oh, there's so many wonderful things about technology. It can connect you to people you haven't seen for a while. I can check in with a team member who's on a different continent, real time, and see updates. We can hear about new sales or new successes in the business in real time and on our own time asynchronously. But there are also major limitations to technology. First of all, it needs limits. you need to be able to tell people it's okay to disconnect from technology every now and then, especially on weekends with family time, late in the evenings. And tech can't provide a human interaction. It can't provide, a high five in the hallway. It can't provide just reading someone's emotions, their smiles and their eyes in how they interact with things. Technology isn't de facto positive or negative. It needs a human intent behind it. It needs care behind it. It needs inclusion behind it. It needs perhaps someone to say, hey, I care about you and I want to include everyone equally. And that's why I'm providing you this technology. Otherwise, technology is kind of generally agnostic and neutral without that intent behind it.
And I'm curious, what are the biggest changes that you've seen over the last 12 months, and how have you stepped up at Limeade to solve these problems? I know you've been doing them long before the pandemic hit, but how have you stepped up during the last 12 months to be there for people?
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at things like burnout and inclusion here in the States as massive topics. Burnout specifically is something we had an indicator using some machine learning of employee burnout 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been popular ever since, but it's really taken off in the last year where people just don't have that division between their life at work and their life at home anymore. It's a very gray area, and they don't have time to replenish and refresh. Their employee engagement ultimately goes down, and their physical health can suffer as well. So I would say that's probably the number one topic. And a close second would be inclusion. With all of what's going on in the world, specifically in the US, as we follow cases like Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd in the news, where the ghosts of our racist past are coming back to haunt us. And companies need to know that it's okay to show care for people and to include people in ways maybe that they haven't in the past. We pioneered our inclusion solution in 2018, our well-being solution in 2007. So it's been a long time coming, but we feel like even at the board level, the environment, the sustainability, the governance is looking at, are we creating an equitable workplace and an equitable world? And that's not just about hitting quotas. It's actually about taking positive action to make sure you get the best out of everyone because they feel trusted and cared for and supported. So I would say burnout and inclusion are the two big new trends that we're seeing a lot of emphasis on in our customer base.
And do you think the boardroom gets it now from all those topics that businesses are calling your teams and coming to your company now and asking for your help and advice and discussing things like burnout, diversity, inclusion, equality, and all these big topics? Because that's where we need to be tackling now. And especially in teams, there's a big realization that you can't serve a diverse audience unless your team is equally as diverse and got that diversity of thought within it. But are the leadership teams understanding this now?
Oh, Neil, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say the answer to that is mixed. Yeah. We see, some very large pioneering companies making themselves very uncomfortable, and by addressing some of these topics and maybe putting themselves a little at commercial risk by taking stands for things they believe in at their core. I think there's a long way to go. I would say it's more the exception than the rule. One indicator of that is that a lot of companies aren't actually allocating resources to some of the things that they talk about, but they're just not really ready to fully commit to. But it's changing. And so as a company that believes in our mission, our purpose, which is to transform work into a source of positivity, energy, humanity, and purpose, some of these things take time. Social change, especially given the drive towards profitability that's inherent in the business world, doesn't come easy and doesn't come without some ups and downs along the way. So you have to really be committed to the journey and realize you take a win everywhere you get it, even if it feels like an uphill battle at times.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And if we do have any business leaders or decision makers listening that are curious on where you can help take their organisation and the areas you can help, do you have any use cases just to help them understand how you're helping them find that sweet spot that helps them show their employees that their business cares while humans pick up where the tech leaves off? Because I think that's the sweet spot that you guys hit.
Yeah, I think one company that we're happy to serve is a company called Ryan. Ryan has offered a Limeade program called Ryan Thrive to all of their global employees. And what we're hearing from them is that we're helping them address COVID-19 with some of the basics of hand washing and social distancing and mask wearing, but broader into whole person well-being with physical, emotional, financial, and work well-being. To help deal with anxiety and burnout, and then giving them a single access point, a single asset that can help them not just with their well-being programming, but also with diversity, with communications. They're communicating business imperatives to the employees of their company. We've seen registration go way up in the last year and a half. 185% increase in global well-being activity participation. That means people doing things to enhance or further their well-being. A 4 times increase in the global user. So I think you're seeing, globalization is still a huge trend. I think we've seen it in a negative way with COVID, but we've also seen it in a positive way with understanding different parts of the world. So I think companies like Ryan, which is a professional services company based in the US, but global, are starting to set the path for other large companies to follow.
And if we look into the future, I ask you to gaze into your virtual crystal ball. Is there anything in particular that excites you about the future of work and also the role that Limeade will be playing in that future too?
Yeah, I think one thing is just hybrid work and returning to offices or not is a huge trend. I think one thing that we encourage people to do, we have some new research out on this in the limeade.com website, is what do your people want? Have you even asked them? Where are they most productive and why? Have you studied that analytically? So I think the whole hybrid work environment is important. I think burnout recovery, will continue to be a hot topic for years to come. And finally, we'll get some understanding in the world about what it really is and how it just crushes productivity and business performance for large companies. So that's a huge topic. And I think one area of research we've done in our Limeade Institute that goes back to the core of when we started the company is to look at the mindsets behind health and well-being as the key drivers. So as we know, 75% of chronic disease and health cost is actually rooted in behaviors and mindsets. And we've gone back and revisited some of our founding research and looked at these topics like emotional awareness and mindfulness, resilience, optimism, positive social relationships, some of the positive psychology work that's at the foundation of our company. And we found that these are actually the most important drivers of well-being and employee engagement. And so looking not just at have you done your vaccinations and are you on, seeing your physician once a year? Are you checking in with your manager frequently? But rather, are you cultivating and building a learning and growth mindset so that you can not just address your well-being issues, but address issues of learning and growth at work? Let's face it, the world is not getting less competitive. And one thing we all need is just an adaptability and resilience to the change ahead. So I'm really excited about how we can help companies train employees on having these positive mindsets that help them adapt and thrive in a pretty chaotic world.
That's a beautiful moment to end on. But before I do let you go, I'm going to throw a curveball your way, because a question I always like to ask my guests is if there is a particular song that has inspired them throughout their career or helps them get their head in the zone before going on a panel or delivering a keynote, or just reminds them of their career in tech and has accompanied them on that journey. And I ask it of every guest, then we put that song on a Spotify playlist. But is there a particular song that stands out for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm a huge fan of any positive music. I'm a big Sia fan, but the one song that I'll have to go back through history is the Levee song by Led Zeppelin, because we're fighting, as I mentioned before, an uphill battle at times, and not everyone is ready to realize the importance of human beings to the success of their company. But I always remind myself and the team here that if it keeps on raining, the levee's going to break. And the positive mindsets and the well-being thinking in the workplace will ultimately prevail, and the data will show that.
Oh man, for saying you had no idea that question was coming, you pulled a banger right out of your pocket there. That will.
And it's a good song.
It is, man. It'll take pride of place on the playlist. But before I let you go, for anyone wanting to find out more information about Limeade, everything we've talked about here, or contact your team, where's the best place to start?
Yeah, please just start at limeade.com, just like a beverage, Limeade. And if you want to connect with me or the team here, please email us at info@limeade.com and we will get back to you. Appreciate your time today, Neil. Thank you.
No, thank you. I love chatting with you so much, especially around the role of technology and helping businesses become an employee experience company. It's such a big topic right now, but like you say, you've been doing this for 15 years, and I'd love how you've stepped up at the right time, at the right place as well with your expertise. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you. Let's design the right experiences that make people feel good at the end of the day instead of feeling drained.
So a big thank you to Henry for sharing how an employee experience company like Limeade can help make a difference to an organisation. And also for discussing how his company built a business on sounding the alarm on employee care and found a greater purpose, catalyzed by the pandemic. But for me, the magic was building tech that enabled companies to develop an experience that best supports their employees during this incredibly difficult period right now. So I'd love to hear more about your struggles over the last 12 months, how your organisation is helping keep employees engaged and letting them know that you do actually care, and how tech works best when it brings people together. So as always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn @Neil C. Hughes. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk, where you'll find over 1,600 podcast episodes of this show, and also some of the shows that I've hosted with Citrix and Netgear too. So that's it for today, though. I'll return bright and early tomorrow, but a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.